We are your home theater and AV questions answered. This is AVRant. Want your home theater or AV question answered by Tom and Rob? Send it to question@avrant.com. Welcome to AVRant. I'm Tom Andry, and I'm here with
Rob H.
Ted. Ted has several amplifier questions, so let's get ready for this. Buckle up, boys. After hearing us say his headphones sounded dramatically better when using his Dragonfly Red USB because of the amp and not the DAC, it got him wondering, would using better amplification cause a similar improvement with his speakers? Why and why not? No.
Well, I mean, if you were starting with really poor amplification, which in the case of your headphones, you were starting with pretty poor amplification just coming out of your laptop. So if it were a like situation where you were starting with pretty poor amplification to your speakers and then you went to a nice separate amp or just a halfway decent AV receiver, then yeah, you'd notice a difference. But it depends on where you're starting. Now, you're starting with a perfectly decent AV receiver. You go from there to a very nice separate amplifier. I'm not going to say it's impossible to hear a difference. It is possible to sometimes hear a small difference, but it is a small difference. Yeah. And it's not going to be the same type of difference as you got going from a laptop headphone output to a nice external USB DAC with an amplifier.
And that's the case for most of the time. And 90% of the time, the difference you hear is between your ears. It's not between your ears and your speaker. It's between your ears. You just hear it because you just spent a bunch of money, and you certainly want to hear it. That being said, I know Rob has been in the exact same boat where we bought amplifiers and listened and go, I think I hear something. And like 6 months later, you're like, I never heard it. I just never heard it. I know now. I apologize to the audio gods that I've offended them by saying I've heard something I've never heard. And that's what we all do, and it's fine.
But
you're
can't
not going to
objectively be like a lower noise floor. There can
there can be a couple
more
of
headroom.
Yeah, there can be a little
those
bit
can be measured and shown.
You're
to
in an itty bitty
different,
tiny room. It's not. I mean, and I don't say that in a negative way. It's just your room's not very big. You've got very nice speakers. You've got a decent receiver. I don't foresee you needing any amplification. Now, he's seen the new Anthem receiver with Class G amps. So what's the deal with Class G, and what advantages do they have over other types? Now, Rob's going to get into the specifics, but amplification, there's Class A, which is what we had back in like the 70s or whatever, and they are very inefficient. They run very hot. They are always at full power all the time, even if nothing is going through. Even if they're not doing anything, they're always at full power, which means they're somewhere around 20 to 25% efficient, which
if
means,
you're lucky.
If you're lucky. So you're getting like 25% of the power that you put in is coming out as sound, and the other 70, 75, 80% of it is coming out as heat. They just get hot. Okay? Then we switch to Class AB amps, which means we only amplify half the signal, and we're able to turn it off when it's not being used. Class AB amplification. You don't ever see B amplification because you can read up on it, but basically they only use it in broadcasting.
B is true 50%, so only the rise of the signal, only the dip of the signal. Those two things are cut in half and amplified completely separately. So Class AB puts in a little bit of a crossover there, so that you don't get just a hard switch, which is actually audible.
You might get something like 50% power efficiency out of that. So 50% of the power you put in is giving you sound the other. Now, Class G amps are, like I said, Rob's going to give you the specifics, but basically it's a type of AB amplification.
That's right.
That is used. It's kind of an upgraded version of it. It uses a few more components. It's slightly more efficient. It's more expensive than your traditional AB typologies. So that's why it's not used very much. And why is Anthem using them? Because it's slightly more expensive, and they can charge a whole lot more money for it because it's different than what everybody else is using, and they want to be able to say they're different.
So the actual output side of the amplifier, the actual thing doing the amplification of the signal, it's the same. It's a Class AB amplifier in a Class G or in a Class H. What is different in Class G or Class H is the power supply. So in a traditional Class AB amplifier, it's a linear power supply. It's one power supply that's just taking the power out of the wall, running it through a converter to get the voltage that you need. That's being fed onto the amplifier, and away you go. In Class G, they have a switching power supply. So the power comes out of the wall, but it switches to different voltage rails on the fly depending on how much power you need. So if you need a whole lot of power, it switches to a high voltage rail. When you don't need very much power at all, it switches to a much lower voltage rail and saves you a whole bunch of wasted power because that low voltage rail isn't turning all of the unused power into heat. Class H means that the power supply is modulated on the fly. So think Class G with infinite number of steps. That's what it's doing. It's modulating the power supply on the fly, gradually going up and down the voltage as needed based on the input signal. So it's still a Class AV amplifier with a switching power supply. That's Class G.
So what does it mean to you in the end? You're not going to hear a difference. So
probably not. No,
you might save a few watts here and there. You might save a little bit of power, but it's not going to be.
And then the other side of it is sometimes it allows you to have a little bit more headroom because you can switch to a higher voltage rail when needed. Yeah, they don't have to they don't have to pick one and stick with it. Yeah. They can go, no, we can go low voltage when we need it, high voltage when we need it.
So Denon seems to be touting a new amp architecture in its upcoming X6300H. Is this something worth getting excited about? No, it's really not. Honestly, it's really not.
Really, about all that's new is previously all the Denon Amarant's models, they touted this equal power, meaning that, any individual amplifier channel was capable of going up to the maximum rated power, and that was basically it. With this new design, since they have 11 amps built in, and they're like, well, we basically have the same power supply. Yeah. Now we're trying to divide it amongst 11 amps. So what they did is they basically said, well, whatever amplifier channel needs the power right now, it will have access to the power supply. And we can sort of adjust that on the fly. Instead of just saying we're going to divide it evenly, we're going to allow each amplifier channel to draw the power that it needs, assuming there's enough reserve in the power supply itself for however many channels are active. But it's basically a little bit more dynamic, right? It's allowing there to be a greater power draw to one individual channel as needed. So that's a good way to come at this, because if you're going to keep the same power supply and try to have more power available to 11 speakers, and realizing most of the time not all 11 speakers are going to be playing simultaneously, this is a more efficient way of doing it. But it's sort of they had to, because now they have the same power supply and 11 channels.
And frankly, a lot of the times these changes are made because things like what Rob was describing. But in the end, it's the bragging about it, the talking about it, the trying to get people excited about it, that is complete marketing. And it really doesn't affect you in any way, shape, or form. In the end, what you will see, what you will hear, will be very little. The difference will be inaudible compared to what was in the last amplifier. Other than the fact that they can power more speakers than they could before, and that's great. But you really aren't going to hear a difference. Not really. I mean, the changes that somebody like Gene might measure from one amplifier to the other, things that they might get excited about, are numbers on a page which are measurable. But from an audible standpoint, very little of it is audible. Very little of it, at this point with amplifier topologies, very little of it makes any audible difference until you start dealing with very hard to drive speakers, or sitting very far away from them, or playing at insane volume levels. Then you start worrying about your amplifiers and how much they can push and all the stuff that they can do. In general, in the most rooms, in my room, in Rob's room, definitely in Rob's room, in your room, in the old amplifier topology will do just fine. It's just really not going to make a difference. So he asks, NAD receivers have a modular architecture which lets you swap out circuit boards to upgrade HDMI and other things without having to ditch the whole receiver. Is this a worthwhile technology to get into for the long haul, or is it just a gimmick? Boy, NAD hates me. I want to put that out there as being true. NAD seriously hates me. I have made fun of them in different... Let's be honest, I have written as many articles on Audioholics that praise NAD and talks and gets excited about their products as those that I kind of poked fun at. But they really got irritated when I made fun of their modular technology, because I said, we've seen it before and it never really pans out. Now they're still doing it, so I have to, eat my hat on that one, eat crow, whatever. They're still kind of keeping up with this modular technology. I still think it's a waste of time. I think I'd rather just every once in a while buy a new receiver, because swapping, you end up not saving that much money doing this. But that's just
the
me.
thing you can rarely ever replace is like either the group of DSP chips that do the majority of the processing or the central processing unit if the thing has one. That's almost never upgradable.
Yeah.
Which means that you have a bottleneck. At some point, you're going to need, if you want to expand to Atmos, there was no way that you could have taken any receiver that was designed to drive a 7.1 system and have magically expanded it to Atmos.
No.
Unless you had a supremely overpowered processor in there to begin with. So over at Emotiva, right? Emotiva, their XMC1, they found a way to expand that thing to 7.2.4 Atmos. But they started with basically an overpowered processor, but they're not going to be able to take that even further if
right.
If such a thing ever comes about, right? There will always be a limit. So to me, it's nice if you have an upgradable HDMI board. That's a nice thing to be able to do. But at some point, you're going to hit a bottleneck that you can't get past, and then there will have to be a whole new model to replace it. So do you want to go in bits and pieces, or just occasionally replace the whole thing?
In NAD's defense, they have really stuck to this a lot longer than I ever thought they would have. We've seen this in Integra did it for like a year, and they almost never they put out like 3 things, and one of them was like an AM FM board that you could stick in there.
Samsung talked about it, and it never really came to market.
Buying into this is a lottery, and if you bought into the NAD one, well, you won. You did well because they've really hung on to this, and they've stuck with it a lot longer than I gave them credit for.
Yeah.
And they're still sticking with it. So good on them for doing that. I didn't recommend people do it then. I don't recommend people do it now. And in the future, if NAD's still sticking with this thing, I still won't recommend it. I'm sorry. I just don't. I don't believe in it. I believe that you are essentially trusting this company to have your back for the long haul. And the minute that it financially doesn't make any more sense for them, they will drop you like, I can't finish that without cursing. So they're going to just drop you, and then that's going to be it. NAD hasn't done it yet, and I think NAD customers that have stuck with them all this time have really benefited from that. But I mean, it's not like it was free. It's not like they put out new boards and they just send them to you to upgrade. You had to pay $200, $300, $400, $500 every time you wanted to add one of these new boards on there. So it wasn't free. And if you add all that stuff up and maybe pay just a little bit more for all these extra features that you're not getting with NAD, no matter what, but they're going to tell you don't need them because all that stuff just messes up the sound, which of course is complete horse hockey. But to me, you're giving up too many features and not getting enough just by having this modular design. But that's me. I think that I'm right, but I always do. On a different subject, Ted had initially planned to upgrade all of his audio gear and then tackle his video, but after seeing a 150-inch projection set up at a friend's house, he's rethinking those plans. Doesn't he have like a 14 by 14 foot room?
Something like that.
Okay.
No, but he was going to upgrade his TV anyway.
Yeah, but 150 inches?
He's not going to go 150 inches. Right. He got the experience of a big projection.
Now so he's already bought his new speakers. They're on the way, or they're getting there. But he still needs to upgrade his subwoofers and his receiver. His current receiver can't pass UHD or Ultra HD or high dynamic range signals, and it can't do Atmos. So what should he do? Subs, receiver, projector, or projector, receiver, subs? You should do subs first. They're guaranteed. Let's just start with that. Let's start with subs. And then you should save up and do I mean, is he going to buy an Ultra HD projector right now?
Yep, that's the plan.
Is that really the plan? Well, then you have to do receiver and projector at the same time, I think. Just save up and get them both at the same time. Well, you don't
have to, because you can bypass the receiver, send your sources directly to the projector.
But I think that you might as well, because to me, every day that you wait to get this projector, because the projector is really the thing. The receiver, I think, really doesn't make that difference. Every minute that you wait to get that projector projector prices come down a little bit, in
or
my mind.
just become available because some of the models aren't actually on the street yet for you to buy.
And that's why I'm saying, you know what? Save up for both at the same time, and that'll push this back in time a little bit. Get your subs, enjoy your TV, enjoy your surround sound system. I'm telling you. First of all, I already told you last week I thought you shouldn't get Atmos or put height speakers in this other nonsense. Was that him or somebody else? Might have been somebody else. Anyway, it doesn't matter. You should just enjoy the 5.1 or 5.2 that you're going to end up with in this room for a while before you add on Atmos and all the rest of this, so that you can, that you're used to what this sounds like, so you can tell the difference when it gets there. Then just spend some time saving up for the receiver and the projector that pushes this back in time, so that projector prices are constantly coming down, and new things are becoming available, and you'll find that you'll get a lot more bang for your buck if you can wait a year.
Yeah, I am mainly saying wait on the projector just because the ones that you are considering, the ones that you want the most, are either literally not available for you to buy today, or they're only going to come down in price. And I kind of want to, make sure that they're the real deal before whole hog saying, buy it on day one. So to me, it makes sense to wait on the projector right now. I mean, I get it. I get how exciting it is. And I get how seeing that is like, whoa, that made such an impression on me. Maybe I want to prioritize the video over the audio. But in your specific case, because this is going to be a long-term system, you want to make sure that whatever you get is going to last you many years. Just wait on the projector a little bit. That gives you enough time. So to me, that's the way to go in your case.
So when he gets do we have to read this one, or did you already answer this kind of?
No, this is different. Yep.
All right. When he gets the projector, he is considering the Epson LS10500. So many zeros in that stupid thing. It seems to check all the boxes, but can he really justify the price? Will the long lifespan of the laser light engine justify doubling the cost over the Epson Pro Cinema 6040UB or the JVC X50 550R, which can also do HDR full DCI color and uses Wobble K? Like I said, dude, the longer you wait, the cheaper that thing's gonna get.
Yeah, I mean, it is $8,000 versus $4,000, and what you're paying for is the laser light engine. There's no question about it. All of these are 1080p projectors that use Wobble K when you're getting a 4K signal. All of them can do DCI color. What's interesting is actually that Epson LS10500. If you want to do high dynamic range with the full DCI color, because it's using lasers as its light engine, it can actually do all of that a little bit brighter than either of the other two options. However, given your small room size, I don't know if you actually need the extra lumen output, because the size of your screen doesn't have to be 150 inches in your case.
Right.
So, there's a little bit there. I mean, it's a very nice projector. If it's easily affordable, then yeah, it's the laser light engine is just simply going to last you longer and will appear, even though it's rated at 1500 lumens and the other ones are rated at like 2500, when you're all calibrated and using the actual DCI color space, it is effectively brighter because it's starting with those really wide color points because it's laser light. So, yeah, I mean, I can't tell you to spend $4,000 more, but I will say you're not getting nothing for it. Right, you're getting something.
I don't know if you're getting
the longer lifespan
for it though. $4,000.
I know. And even if you're replacing the lamp, even if you're replacing the $500 lamp a couple of times, you're still $3,000 to the good. So yeah, this is a tough one. wait a little bit. Yeah,
wait and let the prices settle down, and you might find that you could say, in a couple of months or maybe 6 months, a year or something like that, suddenly the 4K projectors are in the $8,000 price range, and you're thinking to yourself, well, like should I buy
actual 4K chips?
Oh, should I buy the Wobble K one or the 4K? And we're going to probably have the same discussion with you. So want your question answered, send it to question@avrant.com. This is AVRant.
Now go out and listen to something.